I'm Stephanie Munston. am a third-year student at KU Med in their occupational therapy department, and I've been with Sensory Enhanced Aquatics for 3 years. With my swimmer, we do skills in a lot of different ways. We usually start with the skill or the method that requires the most support to begin with in order to build his confidence in that skill and ensure that he feels comfortable in the water. So with back floats in particular, we do them in 3 different ways usually. And the first way we do them is with his head on my shoulder and my hands under his back to give him support on his trunk and also to prompt him to keep his head back. And so his head's on my shoulder, but my shoulder is low enough that his head is entirely in the water. So he's in that proper positioning, and then we count out loud together so he knows when the back float will end. This swimmer has a pool at home and loves to be underwater. That is his favorite place to be. And so he works to go under a lot, but we're also, with his parents and communication with them, we're working on him verbalizing his wants. So a lot of times throughout our lessons, I ask him, what do you want? And then I give him extended amounts of time to process that question and come up with what he wants to say. And if after a while he still hasn't made a choice, I give him 2 options that I know he likes and then wait for him to verbally tell me what he wants to do. And then I let him do that as his break in between activities. With the swimmer, we work on blowing bubbles in a lot of different ways, but one way we do it is just by practicing them standing with our feet on the ground. So the thing we can focus on is blowing bubbles. When we do that, I usually count with my fingers so that he, again, has a start and end point to blowing bubbles. And I am always doing them in front of him so he can also see myself doing them while he is doing them at the same time. My swimmer has difficulty blowing out of his nose. Just in daily life, he can't blow into a Kleenex and things like that, which is also a part of swimming. You blow out of your nose, not always out of your mouth. And so we work on humming in the pool, which is an interesting skill. So we completely submerge our mouths and try to continue to hum a song while just sitting there. And it's supposed to help him, cue him to breathe in and out of his nose during that process. So we pick a song that I know he knows, something like ABC's, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, something similar to that. And then we do that for as long as he can. Probably not usually the whole duration of the song, but for a little bit of time, and we do it a couple times in a row. With this swimmer, we work on kicks in a variety of ways, but one way is with using a barbell. So he holds onto the barbell, and I put one hand under his chest to help support him, and then also hold one hand on the barbell myself to lengthen him. So the goal is that his arms would be essentially all the way straight, because his body should be that long when he is doing kicks in a stroke. And so then all he has to focus on in that moment in time is kicking and keeping his body long, and I'm doing the rest of the work for him. Something we also do while doing kicks with his barbell is I will verbally cue him to blow bubbles in the water or to put his eyes in the water so that his head's down. Both of those things are building on the skill of leading to front stroke and freestyle. And so it's just adding in small pieces to those kicks to get him closer and closer to a full-on stroke. This is another way we do back floats. It has less support than when his head's on my shoulder. I am standing to his side with my hands under his back. Usually I cue him to relax into the back float and relax his whole body, and then we start counting. So we don't count until he's relaxed. My hands in the beginning are usually fully on his back, and then slowly I move to fingertips, and sometimes my fingertips bounce, trying to give him the least amount of support, but so that he still knows I'm there, and so that he's still comfortable and confident in keeping himself afloat. Sometimes we do a back glide, and then after he's pushed off the wall and has that momentum, I support him into a back float. Sometimes that glide into it makes him feel confident and comfortable in the water. He feels the movement helps him feel like he's floating better. And so stilling him at the end of that movement and then keeping him in a back float has proven to help him feel more confident and do that more independently. Another way we do back floats is through him holding a barbell or a kickboard. And that is to give himself something to hold and float with so that I don't have to provide him as much support. Before we ever do that, I usually demonstrate doing a back float, holding on to one of those things so he can see what that looks like. And then we also sometimes backfloat through the lazy river because that provides them with like momentum, and so it makes them float better. And so in that case, when we go around the lazy river, I usually have like one hand on him to guide him. So it's like usually around his head. So I'm not really helping him float at all, just making sure he doesn't run into the walls. Here you can see that in back floats, my fingers like bounce off of his back. So I'm standing next to him. I've told him to relax. He's feeling comfortable in that. And so I slowly begin to pull away my support, but I'm still there so that when his trunk does sink, I'm there to feel it and then give him more support to help him get back to proper positioning. And then when following him from a back glide into a back float, it's the same process. I give him enough support so that he gets comfortable, and then I slowly give him less and less pressure, and then he's doing most of the work. In order to isolate just working on his front stroke arms, sometimes we walk along the pool and do arms at the same time. Here is not a great example of form, but the idea is good. He's slapping the water, he should be gliding along the water instead, or doing more of like a rotation in his arm. But the idea of like walking so that all he has to focus on is just his arms is really important. In between activities, I like to give him breaks frequently, and he chooses, but sometimes also transitioning from one skill to another, trying to make that a fun activity. Sometimes I pull him through the pool, sometimes we hop places. There's lots of options to like make that an exciting thing and make transitions a fun thing for our kids. For front glides with this swimmer, we're really working on him pushing off of the wall with like a lot of force. So I usually have him put his hands on my shoulders, and then I put my hands under his armpit, so I'm holding his body up. And then I have him put his feet on the wall himself, and then I don't let him move until I feel him push against me. So I'm providing him some resistance so that he knows what it feels like to truly like push off of the wall. In that, I also usually prompt him to put his eyes in the water so that then once he has pushed, we're in that right long body alignment. And then I help him just float on his front for a second after the glide off of the wall. We also work on breaststroke. We call it pizza arms with my swimmer. And a lot of times I will hold his trunk, like standing next to him, and tell him not to kick and just do his arms. And we're really emphasizing him reaching really far out in front of him and like scooping the water back. And then the whole time, we're both saying pepperoni pizza arms because that is the routine that he likes and that is the wording that he prefers. And so I walk alongside him and his whole focus is just doing his arms, and later we'll incorporate his legs. Something that helps this swimmer a lot is giving him a number of times we're gonna do something or a destination to go. It makes him feel like he has control of the situation and he knows when he can be finished. So saying we're gonna do our front stroke arms to the wall and he can see the wall is really helpful, or saying we're gonna do it 3 times and then counting down those number of times we've done the activity. This swimmer does not like the idea of his feet being above his head in the water, so that diving positioning. So we've realized that he likes to dive for rings, he likes to play the game where he swims under someone's legs, and those are kind of starting to get him into that position of being a little more upside down. So that is something we do for fun that sort of is a break, but also still working on a skill that is applicable to a future skill we'll work on. This swimmer really likes to go under the water, but he struggles to go move while underwater. So we go under the lane rope sometimes because that's a necessary thing in a pool. There's obstacles in a pool, but also here it forces him to have a destination when underwater. So moving towards the ladder and having to go under the rope is really helpful to give him a destination to go. Being able to get in and out of the pool in a variety of areas is really important. There won't always be a zero entry. There won't always be a ladder. And so we work on teaching them how to get out everywhere. With this swimmer, we were working on getting out at the ladder, and I pointed and then physically helped him put his hands on the bars, and then he crawled out, and then I verbally was communicating with him to wait for me, wait for his teacher on the deck, so that he knew that he had to be with an adult when not in the water. After lessons, we always go back and talk to his parent about how the lesson went. Something his parents are really working on is him looking people in the eyes and speaking loudly. So a lot of times we are cueing him and priming him to look me in the eyes to respond to me, or speaking in a loud voice to tell his dad what we did. I always talk about like the great things he did and then the new skills we worked on to wrap up our lesson. At the end of our lessons, we always try to play games with the group of swimmers that is able to participate. Some of them don't like the game, some of them are in different pools, but a lot of our kids are all together, and we like the idea of that social component. Pools should be fun, they should be a place where kids play, and so we like the idea of teaching our kids those games that every kid plays in the pool. So red light, green light. We also play Simon Says in the pool. We sometimes go and do strokes to get things. It's just a fun way for us to all interact and sort of instill that competitiveness in these kids and and continue to work on swim skills while doing something social. In this video, we have kids playing Simon Says and red light, green light. And red light, green light, we're supporting one of the kids by helping him show the rings and the colors and cueing him for when to tell everyone to stop and when to tell everyone go. We're also supporting a swimmer in him swimming by having one hand under his belly and prompting him to kick and use his arms. And then we also have an instructor who's demonstrating swimming. For Simon Says, we are corralling them all together by using verbal prompts, telling them to come play with us, by using physical prompts to keep them with the group. And then we're giving them all the option to tell us what they want to do. So every person goes around the circle and says the activity that they want to do, giving them choice in it and also giving them the option to like interact together. And then when skills are difficult, we're providing like the appropriate support to each kid throughout the game. At the end of the game, you can tell that the swimmers are distancing themselves from the group. They're trying to go do other activities, and so we took that as a cue to end the game, that they were no longer interested in the game, and so the game should end. And that is a helpful cue to us to know when lessons should be done and when the game should be done.
My name's Adam Corder. My son is Pearson Corder. He is 11 years old. He is a extremely happy and loving little boy who will give you the impression that he isn't listening or paying attention, but in reality, he hears everything. His biggest obstacle is communication, and most of it is conversational. But he is a happy little boy, and we feel blessed to have him. He's very social. He has a twin sister, and he is always wanting to be around where she's at, be in the room, try to be engaged with her and her friends. Again, he struggles with communication, so it seems awkward to maybe someone that doesn't know him because he's not overly engaged, but he wants to be there and he wants to be a part, and so he's trying to find his way in the world, and we're trying to find our way in our world to meet him halfway. So. He was always, as a toddler, he would play in the water table and loved the sprinklers, but he would never put his face in the water. He would, in the swimming pool, would let us hold him, but it was kind of scary for him. And now he loves the water. We can't get enough of it, so it's pretty awesome to see the growth that's occurred. We hadn't done any swim lessons prior to this. We've tried one during the time we were involved in these lessons because we couldn't get in one session, and it did not compare at all to these lessons. It was just another opportunity somewhere else, we thought, just to give him a chance to swim because we were unable to get in at that time, and it didn't compare at all. The biggest thing was the fact that the instructors, their understanding of kids with special needs, their understanding of the difference in all of the kids that come here. They're not all, there's no cookie cutter about it. Every lesson, if you watch, is different, and it's catered to the individual kid. And every instructor's phenomenal. They do such a great job being patient and understanding. And the kids sense that, and I think it makes the lessons even better. Well, initially, when we discovered that when we got the diagnosis of autism, my wife and I did a ton of research. And through that research, we discovered that a leading cause of death for children on the spectrum was drowning. And so we decided we needed to do anything and everything we could do to try to help him to survive if he were to ever end up in a body of water unsupervised. And so that led us to this discovery of these lessons and why we're here today. We have a swimming pool locally that we go to often, and the ease that we now have in watching him, we supervise him like crazy, but there is not that constant stress and panic of, oh my gosh, he's not going to be able to get to the side if he needs to. He can tread, he goes underwater, he can swim. He's actually learning strokes even at times, which is way beyond anything we thought was possible when we first started these lessons. So his relationship with water now is awesome. I mean, he loves it. He can't get enough of it. We started out with just wanting him to be able to help himself if he were to get in a situation that, in a body of water, to get to the side, to get to the shore. That was initially what we have done, but now it's turned into part of our therapies that we do. I mean, we have music therapy and speech therapy, and this is swimming therapy. And it's gone well beyond the learning to survive. Now he's learning to, breaststroke kick and backstroke with his arms and go underwater and hold his breath. And that's a whole new world to him. When he went underwater the first time, it was like a brand new light bulb had gone off. So to see that has been really awesome to watch, because that was not what we thought was going to happen. It's something we just never dreamed would be possible. And now it's something he loves to come to these lessons. Well, I think that with our experience with the two different types of lessons that we've tried with him, this is by far and away a home run. This approach, this kind of program, the way they do things with all the different kids, I can't believe there being anything better for these kids to experience, to learn how to swim, to learn how to float, to learn how to tread. I myself, we live 40 minutes away, and it's well worth the drive. I've talked to the director here, and I said, if you've ever thought about having one over closer to our side of town, we'd be willing to try to help you get that going, because there is such a need for it, huge need. There's so many people that don't know where to turn and don't have an idea that I think this program is as available and as popular and as beneficial as it really is. I know we kind of stumbled on it looking through a Parenting with Special Needs magazine and found an article, and that was kind of my journey. I started, I'm like, we need to look into this. And so it's a phenomenal program. I can't speak high enough about it, and I think it'd be something that everybody could benefit from that has a child with special needs.